Edward Leos. Welcome to Travel Talk, filmed at the Peachtree Rose Marketing Studios and hosted by the Hotel Guide publisher, Edward Leos.
Good morning, everybody. Edward Leos here, publisher of the Hotel Guide and your host of Travel Talk. Really excited about today's guest, Monique Hayward, with DRISCOLL Cuisine Cocktail Concepts. It sounds like a long name, but it's actually a lot of great things. We actually connected last week and chatted a little bit about what they're doing. And I said, man, this is a fabulous lady and her partner as well. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing as well. But Monique, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, Edward, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. I can tell your energy is infectious, and that's what I love. When you have a podcast guest and they just have that vibe, that's always a good one. It's always going to be a great show then. So as I like to do with all of my guests, and our listeners out there want to know, hey, who the heck are you talking to, Edward? Monique, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of how you got to where you are. Then we'll jump into about the business and let them know about that as well.
Sure. So my name is Monique Hayward, of course, and I have an interesting career that I've set out for myself. So my primary focus has always been marketing and communications and high technology. So that's kind of my day job. And then alongside my day job, I have had an entrepreneurial career. And so I have been a restaurant owner. I've been a partner in a software company. I have also been a partner in the business that I have currently, which is a personal chef business along with a vacation rental property down in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm based in Beaverton, Oregon, outside of Portland. And so I've been here for the last 30 years. And then the other thing I've done is that I've forged a path for myself as an author and as a speaker. And so I've written a couple of books. I've been around the world, trying to spread the word about entrepreneurship, women in business, people of color in business, and just in general, how to get ahead in your career and how to be a successful entrepreneur or be a successful professional.
No, that's all good stuff. It's like you have a lot going on, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I have a lot going on. I'm super busy, and sometimes it's a little crazy.
I think people like us like crazy. I think crazy fuels us. To a lot of people from the outside looking in, they're like, "How do you do all of that?" And I'm like, "Do what? I mean, it's just what we're used to, and you kind of just go along with that flow." But let's talk a little bit about the catering business and the house as well, and kind of give our guests a little bit about that's kind of how we connected. Kind of what you're doing there in Phoenix, and any big plans for the remainder of the year going into 2026.
Yes, absolutely. So the business is called DRISCOLL Cuisine and Cocktail Concepts. My business partner, Brian Driscoll, is the namesake of the company. And he had an idea many years ago to start a personal chef service by way of this interaction that he had with a couple who had been apart because the husband had been in the military and had been stationed overseas. And he was coming home. And the wife had asked Brian if he could prepare a special dinner for them at their home as a surprise. And so Brian did that for them. And it was an amazing reunion of the husband and the wife after having been separated for months and months. And Brian, in witnessing this amazing interaction and amazing emotional moment, he said to himself, wow, I really think I can make a business out of this. But, being in the restaurant business, and I'm a former restaurant owner myself. Yeah. I mean, I know how folks are in this business. It's hard for them, to find the right partners, to find the right resources, to, find the wherewithal to, bring their ideas to life oftentimes. And you just got to meet the right person who can enable that. And so in 2019, Brian and I met. And he told me this story, and I was like, hey, I think you might be onto something here. And so we chatted about it. I went back to Portland, did the research, came up with a business plan, went back to Phoenix. He and I, forged ahead with our partnership. And the next thing you know, we were off and running. And so that's how the business got started. And so for the first couple of years of the business, we focused on the personal chef service. We made it through the pandemic. Holy moly. In fact, we launched the business in late 2019, and we all know what happened in March of 2020. So Yeah, Brian actually quit his job at his restaurant to do our business full time.
Wow.
And so when the world shut down, even if he wanted to go back to work in a restaurant, he couldn't because all the restaurants were closed, as we all remember.
Correct.
And so he and I, basically came up with a strategy to keep the business going through the pandemic. And the idea that we came up with was this: your home is your new favorite restaurant. Because when we sat back and looked at the environment and saw what was happening, we were like, where is everybody? Everybody's at home. Why did we start this business? Because we wanted to reinvent in-home dining. Well, I guess we can lean into that. And so we put a lot of publicity behind the idea. We did a lot of marketing behind it. And then that helped with, the business surviving and even thriving coming out of the pandemic. And so from there, we decided that, having a personal chef business is a little hard to scale. And we thought that, just like how we decided to reinvent in-home dining in Phoenix with our personal chef service, we said, what can we do to disrupt the short-term vacation rental market, right? Because it is, as you know, with the hotel guide, right? It's like Airbnbs and VRBOs and stuff, they've all gotten a little homogeneous. There's not a whole lot of differentiation in the space. And only recently now have those companies realized that they can add on experiences, they can add on services, right, that actually increase the value proposition for people to make those reservations and to continue to be repeat customers. And so we were a little bit ahead of that curve. And so we decided to buy a vacation property in Phoenix in the lovely Moon Valley neighborhood. And we have a 3,000 square foot home that sits on a corner lot that's 16,000 square feet.
Wow.
It's got all the amenities that you would imagine in a boutique luxury hotel, but it's on, a really approachable scale. And Brian is our chef in residence who will, fix you breakfast every day. And then also your on-site host who will help you with the things that you need to have an amazing experience at our home. The thing that I like to tell people is that, when you go to a lot of these short-term vacation rental properties, they have a lot of signage that tell you, this is how this operates, or this is what you need to do. And then these are the rules. And this is, here's the Wi-Fi password, all of those things that, are just kind of a little impersonal and a little cold. Well, Brian actually replaces all of that. We don't need all of that signage because Brian is there to actually have a conversation with you and be your host and be your guide for the experience that you want to have. So we have Phoenix's first chef-driven, hospitality-forward bed and breakfast. And it's been going really well for the last year and a half that we've had it.
That's awesome. I mean, we talked about this offline before, but experiential travel is one of the top things, trends going in travel. I think obviously post-pandemic, you're talking about people who really, when they go places, they want to experience that place, not just, staying at a nice place is always great, but what is the experience that comes with it? How does that influence me coming back as well? Right. And so it sounds like, well, obviously you were ahead of the curve, you and Brian, but I love what you're doing with the property. I love what you're doing with the customization of the chef side of things, and having your own personal concierge there on property is always pretty amazing thing for guests. And I love what y'all are doing. Any other big plans for the rest of the year, going into next year with the company or with the property that you can unveil, or is it business as usual?
Oh, no, it's never business as usual, Edward. You should know that, running your business. Definitely. Yeah, never business as usual. So we've got a couple of big plans. So the first thing is that coming into the fall and winter season, we are planning to really emphasize our personal chef service along with the vacation experience so that people are aware that they can do everything under a single roof, right? So that's been something that we've been building up to and educating people about, is that, you don't have to worry about, trying to get your group of, 6, 7, 8 people, a restaurant reservation, and, doing all that hustling, trying to figure out where you're going to go. You can do all of that, with us, in our property, and have that experience brought to you right there in our home. So that's one thing we're going to continue to lean into. The second thing that we're going to do is that we're going to promote the property for special events, for small networking events, corporate meetings, small weddings, the smaller celebrations, because again, we have a pretty unique property. I encourage everybody, once we get to that point to check it out. It's beautiful. If you look at where it sits in Phoenix, I mean, most people have this idea of Arizona being kind of this desert that it doesn't have a lot of landscape, or it doesn't have a lot of greenery. But if you look at our place, I mean, you would not think that it was in Phoenix, Arizona. We're surrounded by mountains. We've got this amazing landscape, and it's just an incredible scene that you can get yourself into. And so we're going to continue to promote the property as a place where you can host events and also special occasions. There are also people who rent the property for photo shoots and video shoots and music videos. In fact, we just had a young lady who is an up and coming R&B singer, and she booked our place so that she can do her music video. I mean, so these kinds of things are really unique, and like you said, in terms of the experience, right? People are using these kinds of properties to to really enhance the experience of what it is that they're trying to bring to market themselves. And then I think the final thing is that as we look longer term at our company and our growth potential, again, looking to reinvent, how food and beverage is delivered, to reinvent how experiential travel and chef-driven experiences are delivered. We would actually like to bring a non-alcoholic ready to drink cocktail to market. So that's the thing that we're working on next. The brand is going to be Driscoll Dry. And so we are, because if anybody out there is a cocktail enthusiast, but is also experimenting with zero proof, non-alcoholic spirits and cocktails, they'll probably have a story about how they have, spent about, anywhere between $25 to $50 on, a non-alcoholic spirit, and found it wanting for, on a lot of levels, not the least of which was the taste, the mouthfeel, the lack of spirit, for lack of a better way to describe it. Right? So the way that I have been describing it for people is that, spirit free often means spiritless. And because when you spend that kind of money and when you have that kind of expectation, especially if you have been someone who has enjoyed the experience of a cocktail, the experience of, being, in a social situation where folks are drinking, and it just doesn't meet the expectation, especially at the price points that people are selling this stuff at. So that's our next big thing to do.
That's awesome. I know we've talked about that a little bit, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be unique to what you're doing as well. So I'm excited about that. We've got a few more minutes here, but I want to get your personal take on some of your favorite travel destinations and even some bucket list travel spots before we end the call. So what are some of your favorite spots, and where do you want to go to?
Yes. Okay. So I'll tell you my favorite spots. I'm originally from New York City, if you couldn't already tell. So New York is my hometown and my number one destination, in life. I was born in the city. I was raised there until I was like 9-10 years old. And my mom and my dad split up. They divorced, and my mom moved us to South Carolina. But my grandparents still lived in the city, and so we would visit every summer. Nice. And then when I was in college at the University of Maryland, College Park, it was just a hop and a skip and a jump to get to the city, right? So it was just like the city has just always been there for me. So that's my number one destination in life, New York City. Then behind that, very close second is London, and a very close third is Rome. Nice. So and as far as travel destinations that I always want to go back to over and over again is Italy. Right? Anybody who's been there just knows, like, oh, it's just so magical. The Italians have it dialed, right? They just they have it dialed in terms of just the experience around all of the history and the culture, the food. It's just so amazing, and the Italians are just wonderful people and just so amazing. So.
Perfect.
So those are my top destinations.
Top destinations. Any bucket list spots on your list there?
Yes, bucket list, Australia and New Zealand. Yes,
Wow. Okay.
I haven't been there. I've traveled all around the world, for business as well as for vacations. And I just haven't gotten that
That
far.
far.
It takes so long
Yeah.
to get there. Just so yeah. So one of these days, I'm hoping that if I'm ever out there already, that I can just sort of
Jump into it.
plan for a week or so to kind of like do it. But yeah, it just hasn't lined up. So yeah, so Australia and New Zealand are definitely on the bucket list for sure.
That's great. Well, those are some great destinations. I'm a big New York is one of my favorite cities. I'm from San Antonio, but I bleed pinstripe is what I tell people. So I'm a big Yankees fan as well. But I just want to, we got to, we're winding down here, but what's the best way for people to find DRISCOLL Cuisine and connect with you guys?
Yes. So you can find us everywhere because we are trying to be famous. So
Good.
yeah, our website is DRISCOLLcuisine.com. And we're on all the socials. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X. We're also on YouTube. Yeah. So everywhere. So just go to DRISCOLLcuisine.com and then, link up with us on our socials from there.
Well, perfect. Well, time goes by way too fast when you're having fun and talking about such great opportunities, Monique. I have a feeling this won't be the last time you'll be on the podcast with me, but thank you for being on Travel Talk with us today.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. And it was so lovely to talk with you.
Oh, awesome. Well, to all our listeners out there, you know the drill. Follow us at thehotelguide.com. Like, comment, subscribe to not only the magazine, but to our podcast. We're going to drop in Monique's web address in the comments as well. That way you can find them. And if you're in the Phoenix area, you've got a great place to go, and then be on the lookout for their beverage line when it comes out as well. So to everyone, I say travel, make memories. And until next time, everyone, be safe. Take care.